Hong Kong Direct is your weekly racing roundup full of news, views, interviews, previews and special guests. And coming up on the show today, we're looking at Cheung Fa Racecourse in China and the Framework Cooperation Agreement, what that means for Hong Kong racing. We've got a special guest, Bill Nader, here in the studio to take us through that. And also, as we get towards the end of the season, we are seeing a number of star three-year-olds come through the ranks, including Courier Wonder. We'll have a look at some of those and hear from some of the tipsters and the experts around Hong Kong to find out who they like going forward as well. Very warm welcome to the show. I'm Andy Lejeune, and as previously mentioned, I'm joined by Bill Nader, Director of Racing Business and Operations here at the Jockey Club, to talk about Cheung Fa. Bill, before we get into the Framework Cooperation Agreement itself, can you give us a little bit of background about what Cheung Fa is, what it's used for at the moment, and how it came to be?
Well, you have to dial it back, Andrew, to the early 1970s in Sha Tin Racecourse. When it was built, it wasn't built to really accommodate where we are today. Racing has grown so much in Hong Kong when you look through the years and the decades to where we are now with 88 race meetings, and this season 834 races. And Sha Tin was built to accommodate a lot of people in the grandstand, 80,000 plus. But in terms of the stabling and training facilities, it really wasn't built to accommodate a population like we have today. So with Happy Valley Racecourse being more hit and run racetrack to go in, race there, and then come back with only monthly barrier trials, the club did look for quite a long time for suitable land in Hong Kong to build another stabling and training venue, but it was almost mission impossible. And eventually the opportunity came up at Cheung Fa, and that was the beginning of the journey. And to give you an idea how long it took from inception to completion, it was really 4 club chairmen. It started with John Chan, who was the chairman at the time when we agreed to go forward with the project. John was very enthusiastic and supportive of it, and it took a lot of courage because it's something outside of the club's comfort zone, to take us into the mainland to build a training venue there and to bring horses back and forth. And with that, we needed to establish the equine disease-free zone so that when horses went to the mainland, they could come back to Hong Kong. That was never allowed before. So from there, it was then Brian Stevenson, who was club chairman. And of course, Brian had a more practical approach and warned us about potential pitfalls. And he was right. I mean, we did have problems with site formation and other issues. It delayed the construction project. Then it went to, as a club chairman, Simon Ip, who was there for a very big moment in club history, the opening ceremony, which took place on the 28th of August, 2018, strategically selected day, the 8th month, the 28th day, 2018. And that was just a great moment in club history. And then finally, it was Anthony Chow as club chairman when we introduced Cheung Fa to the world with the exhibition race meeting that was held on the 23rd of March in 2019. And along the way, at every step, was the club CEO, Winfred Engelbert Breskis, with his finger on the pulse to make sure that we were able to complete it. And finally we did, and we ended up with an absolute magnificent venue, a 2,000-meter turf track, 2 dirt tracks, uphill gallops, spelling paddocks, equine hospital, farrier forge, swimming pool. We have the rehab unit with chilled saltwater spas and an aqua treadmill. So it's an absolutely great place for the horse in a great environment, all nestled in the beautiful Cheung Fa Hot Springs Resort community, which is just breathtaking. So it took a long time to get there, but it was worth it. And finally, the last piece of the puzzle was developing the people. And we did recruit a lot of new staff from in and around Cheung Fa, supported them with a very important piece, which is the Hong Kong experienced staff that went up there to help guide them along. And we learned that the mainland staff, we quickly learned that they were very motivated, very dedicated, and really wanted to build a future for themselves. And we now have a very capable working team there. And the last piece was convincing then owners and trainers to buy in, which sounds easy now that we know it's working. But in the beginning, that was a bit of a challenge. But now, fortunately, with all the momentum from Cheung Fa, that part is behind us.
Yeah, I think you touched on a couple of important points. I've heard jockeys say that it's one of the best surfaces they've ridden on. As far as the area is concerned, that it is a tourist area in its own right. And just talk about the history and how it's come to pass. There's no hyperbole attached when you say this is an historic moment that we've come to now. So what is the cooperation framework agreement, and what does it mean going forward?
Well, it's another big moment and a milestone moment, because it shows when we first started, it was about really developing a mutual cooperation to develop the Greater Bay Area. And now I think this framework agreement memorializes that. And from our part, it means to bring to Guangzhou and Chongfa an international standard of racing. We'll continue to now build out the stable complex to the maximum number. So that will take place in the coming years. We currently have over 600 stables in Hong Kong in terms of capacity. That will go to over 1,000. We'll add another swimming pool, and the big piece is we'll add a grandstand. So we'll make that continued investment. From the Guangzhou side, they will build us a second access road, which is critically important in terms of getting people in and out of the race course. And lastly, the value chain, which is, I think, just a fancy way of saying to find opportunities that are of mutual interest, and I think there will be many as we move forward. That could take on a number of potential opportunities, and we look forward to doing that, because the club is very motivated to fulfill the obligation of trying to make the most of the Greater Bay Area and develop an equine industry in the Guangzhou region.
So you said 2025 is sort of the kickoff point. We're looking to see competitive racing there. Will they be extra meetings then, as we've got a bigger population, or will it be meetings instead of will Happy Valley take a week off or something like that, or these will be additions to the program already?
Well, I think that's one of the real assets that Chongfa brings to us, is it leads us to expansion. Because of the additional stabling capacity, we can continue to grow the population and have additional race meetings. So I would say that in Hong Kong, the 88 race meetings that we currently enjoy, there'd be no change there. But the additional race meetings could take place at Chongfa. In 2025, we anticipate that we would have probably one race meeting in the 24-25 season, most likely around April of 2025. And we would look to probably develop, coming back to the framework agreement in the International Standard of Racing, we would probably look to develop one of our Class 1 races into a Group 3 race, which is very doable in the time frame that we're talking about, so that it would be ready in 2025, possibly leading in as a prep to Champions Day. So that's something that we have on the radar. And then from there, after the 24-25 season with maybe one race meeting, then we could look to then in the 25-26 season up the ante. It could be anywhere from maybe 4 to 7 additional race meetings, and then come up with a 5-year vision as we get closer to see how we might want to ramp up.
You mentioned the grandstand as well, which has got to be built. It's no small task in its own right. How do you see Chongfa, the racecourse itself, developing? Is it going to be sort of in the mould of Sha Tin, or sort of a combination? Or are we expecting something new in terms of the look and feel of the racecourse itself?
Well, it's a hot springs resort town, so it wouldn't be the size of Sha Tin. No, it would be more capacity in terms of on-course attendance would be more in the region of maybe 7,000 to 8,000 max. So it might be maybe a smaller version of a Happy Valley, but certainly that's a big investment. When you look at the investment the club has made in phase 1, now we'll call this phase 2, it's significant to build that grandstand, and it shows our commitment to the international standard of racing in Chongfa. And with the additional stabling capacity, there's no certainty as to the number of meetings that might be there in the next, from 2026 to 2030. But I think it's a pretty good bet that it would be an increasing number and would only add to the total number when you combine Sha Tin, Happy Valley with Chongfa. So to that end, the future is very bright. And most important thing I think that Chongfa does for Hong Kong is it provides the very necessary support to sustain what we currently have here. When you look at the growth of racing over the last 20 years in Hong Kong, it's been quite substantial. And now with 88 race meetings and 830 plus races, it would not be possible today without Chung Fa, and it certainly wouldn't be possible in the years to come without Chung Fa. So Chung Fa serves two purposes. One, sustaining the level of racing in Hong Kong, and also providing future opportunities in the mainland.
You touched on the exhibition meeting that we had there, which I was lucky enough to go along to as well. That was an exhibition in the sense that there was prize money and races were won, but there was no betting. The way you're speaking now, I'm assuming there'll be wagering in the future. Is that still a work in progress? Well,
we use the word exhibition, but really the word is professional. So what we did previously, those were races that had prize money and were run on the same standard as if those races were run in Hong Kong. The only missing element was the wagering component. Going forward, I'm not sure. It's a big question, it's an important question, but I'm going to give you a very simple answer. I don't think any of us really know what that might look like, but certainly with the grandstand there and with the commitment to additional race meetings, hopefully it might be something that will develop, but it's uncertain at this time.
Yeah, everything when I speak to, it's all positive. All the trainers that send their horses up there, they all come back with positive experience. And anecdotally, it's been a major success. I'm sure the stats back that up as well in terms of the horses that go up and come back and are winning races here. Just away from Chung Fa for a moment, Bill, because we're running out of time rapidly. I know you're a driving force behind the international horses that come here to compete in Hong Kong as well. We've got some big meetings coming up this weekend in the UK and in Japan, and then a big summer of festivals as well. I'm sure you'll be hoping to see some of those stars out here next season as well, would you?
Yeah, it's great for us to be able to see these races because we can then scout and really identify potential candidates that would come here in December for the Hong Kong International races or even any of our Group 1 races that follow. But the races that we're talking about, the Epsom Derby, the Yasuda Kinnan with Grand Allegria, and of course the French Derby, which not only might identify horses that can come to some of our bigger races, but sometimes the French Derby leads to horses that are just imported into our normal population. So going forward from this weekend and what we have coming up over the summer is very exciting. I mean, that's a breakthrough for the club. Normally, in the past, there's been no simulcast allowed from the 17th of July through the end of August. Now we will have 12 simulcast days during that period, and we'll be able to showcase some of the premier races, particularly in Europe, that will be of great interest to our fan base in Hong Kong, and also give them a chance to do the same thing that we're doing, scout those horses and get an idea of who they are and where they might fit if they do come here in December.
Yeah, Grand Allegria Golden 60, wouldn't that be something over the mile? That's something to look forward to. But Bill, thanks for the insight today. Fantastic stuff. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks very much.
There you go. That's Bill Nader, Director of Racing Business Operations here at the Jockey Club, talking about Chung Fa and the progress and what the future holds, 2025 for the racing to go on there. Still plenty more to come here on the show. Up next for us, we're looking to the future still, but with the 3-year-olds here in Hong Kong who are the best.